We're back, and joining me now is Craig Humphrey, the director of The House of Blue Leaves, which opens at First Prebysterian Theater February 28th. Craig, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about The House of Blue Leaves,
Sure.
but first I just have to say what a fabulous job you've done on the costumes of Oliver.
Thank you.
That show was great. The costumes are terrific, and I know we're going to show a few photos from that, but tell me a little bit about the process of the costume design for that show.
Well, it was quite the undertaking, just purely in the size of the show. We had a cast of 48.
Wow.
And we ended up with over 75 costumes,
oh my gosh.
Most of which were built in our shop at the university.
Wow.
And
so do the students help with these?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We have a staff of students who are student employees, but also those who are working for credit.
Right. Because so you are mostly focusing on the non-children costumes, if
Correct.
I remember correctly.
I actually co-designed the show with one of my alums, Amber Klinker, and she did the children and the two Olivers, because there were two actors cast as Oliver, and the Artful Dodger and Bet, and I did the rest of the adult actors.
Well, they were just simply sumptuous, and
Thank you.
it was just such a great thing to add
Thanks.
to the show.
We're very proud of the show.
Yeah, well, and people can still catch it this weekend.
Absolutely,
So there's one more run of that. Now, I do want to talk about the House of Blue Leaves. That's a show I was not familiar with that. So tell me a little bit about, what the show is about.
Well, The House of Blue Leaves is set on the day in 1965 when Pope Paul the 23rd, I believe, was his number, visited New York City. He was speaking at the UN about the Vietnam War, and he also gave a mass at Yankee Stadium. And all of the events of the play take place on that specific day, but they're centered around a lower middle class family living in Queens, New York, who Artie is the lead character, and he by day works for the Bronx Zoo as an animal keeper, but his real dream is to be a successful songwriter. And of course the play follows the events of a day when everything that could go wrong for Artie goes wrong.
It goes wrong.
Yes.
So the cast, how many people are in it?
It's a total cast of 11.
Okay.
The central action is around Artie, his wife Bananas, and she is appropriately named, his mistress Bunny, and their son Ronnie. But then we have a movie star who makes an appearance, and Artie's lifelong friend who is a successful movie director and producer, 3 nuns, an MP, and the man in white.
So there's a lot of potential for things to go wrong.
And they do.
Now, this show was written in 1971.
Right.
So I'm guessing that there were probably some things that were in that era right there that were brought about. But it sounds like it still could happen today, that the themes are still relevant.
It's absolutely relevant. The play really centers on the American obsession with celebrity and what people are willing to do in the name of that sense of fame and how they're willing to betray each other in pursuit of that.
sense of celebrity. And what do some of these characters do?
Well, without giving away some important plot twists,
no spoilers.
They do quite a lot of things
Yeah.
that I really can't elaborate on, but ultimately it's very funny. The play is, it's been described as a tragic farce.
Okay.
I like to think of it as a dark comedy.
All right.
It is very funny. It is very full of action, but then there are some disturbing twists in the play.
So all the action you said take place in one day, and is it in one
It's all
home,
in the apartment of the Shaughnessy family, yes.
So tell me a little bit about this set.
Well, it's a realistic interior set of a rundown Queens, New York apartment, circa 1965, that it's not been cared for and fairly sparse. But,
and is that indicative of the characters' lifestyles as well?
Very much so.
Yeah, and I know we're showing a few photos going through here. I just want to point out we're on partial set and without final costumes.
Right, these are from a rehearsal we had earlier this week, yes.
Tell me about the costumes. You know, if this show was written in '71, it was presumably then for that day.
Well, actually, because it's set in 65.
65.
Yes.
65,
so
that's right.
we're still working on what the costumes will ultimately end up being, but there'll be a lot of fond, humorous remembrances of that era.
Now, you're not doing
the
costumes.
No, I'm not.
on
Actually,
this
one of my former students, Jeff Gels, is designing the costumes for this production.
So what's that like for you to go from designing all these costumes for Oliver to the director's chair?
It's kind of a relief.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of costumes.
I live in both worlds.
Yeah.
I regularly direct and regularly design, and I enjoy them both, but it's always nice when I can do one without the other. So.
Right. You said that this show is both funny and disturbing. I mean, you know,
Yes.
and we don't want to give away anything, but, you know, these characters, they must be kind of quirky and...
They're all very quirky.
Yeah.
And in many ways, they're honest depictions of people we know,
Right.
at the same time that they're kind of over the top.
Right.
And the play works on multiple levels. John Guare, who wrote the play, really plays with some theatrical conventions that for much of the play, they are speaking as we are to
Right.
each other, and it's very realistic. The audience is observing. But then the characters, turn and talk directly to the audience.
Yeah.
And it's a back and forth thing that happens throughout the play. The characters are very much aware of our presence there as the audience.
Almost like they're saying, look at me
Yes.
and watch what I'm going to do next.
Yes.
With that give and take, it sort of reminds me a little bit about how Ellery Queen used to turn and look at the camera,
camera,
yeah,
yes,
on
right.
his show. So I think that's a very intriguing, you know, convention in and of itself.
Right.
So do the audience, will they ever be expected to talk back or to kind of give it opinion?
Well, I guess I wouldn't be opposed if they did. We'll see.
See how into that they are.
Right.
Now tell me about the actors who are portraying these characters.
I have my central characters are being played by Scott Rummage, who's familiar to many a Fort Wayne audience. Bunny, his mistress, is being played by Jane Fraser, who again very familiar. And Bananas is being played by Dottie Miller, who this is my first time working with Dottie, but she is also known within the theater community. And then I have a number of my former students, IPFW alums, who are playing supporting roles: Kate DeVenter, Scott Moffmer, David Carr. And then we have Deborah Dombra, Courtney McMean, and Carolyn Stouter also.
Well,
in the cast.
that is a very well-rounded cast.
Yes.
That's very nice. So, do you think it's more ensemble cast, or is there definitely a
It really
lead
centers
characters?
around Artie, and the bulk of the action is carried by Artie and Bananas and Bunny, but the other characters certainly have their input.
These character names are so intriguing
Yes.
to me. Bananas,
Yes.
and Bunny.
And yes, Bananas, and she is Bananas.
And she's the wife. not
She's the
mistress.
wife, yes.
So we're going to get to learn a lot about the relationship between
Absolutely.
Between these three, I
Yes.
guess. Now, you're producing this at First Presbyterian Theater.
Right.
You're directing it. Have you worked with them before?
I have on a few occasions. I directed love letters for them 2 years ago, I believe. And going back a long way, the early 90s, I designed 2 productions for them.
So, and you work with a variety of different groups to do directing. I mean, what is that like to kind of hop to a couple of, different organizations?
For the most part, the process remains the same regardless of where you're working, because we're all essentially pursuing the same goals.
Right.
So I enjoy going out and directing other places than IPFW. But,
Well, and I would imagine that different theaters all have different resources available
Sure,
to them.
absolutely.
So some things may be easier at one.
and more difficult in
another.
others, but it all works out. So
It's all put on a show.
right, exactly.
So what do you hope that the audience takes away with them when they see this?
I do hope that they are entertained. I believe the play is very entertaining. But I also hope that they stop and think about why the play turns the way it turns,
Right.
and what John Guare is saying about our lives as Americans. It's a very American
Yeah,
play.
it's going to make you think too, as
Yes,
well as
I
make
hope,
you
I
laugh.
hope so. I hope
Okay,
so.
well, let's again. It starts February 28th.
February 28th through
First-
March 16th.
First Presbyterian, and you can get tickets.
By calling the box office,
Okay.
which I believe the number, yes, 422-6329.
Okay, and tickets are available now.
Yes, they are.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
being
Melinda. I
here,
appreciate
Craig.
it.
I'm Melinda Haines with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. Next time on Arts Weekly, we'll talk music and movies. Kira Downey and Hamilton Tescarolo will be here to tell us about the Music on Old Mill series at Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And then Jonah Chrismore from Cinema Center drops by to discuss their Oscar party and other upcoming events. For up-to-the-minute arts updates, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And be sure to join us here Thursday evenings at 7:30 on PBS 39. Thank you for watching.